Hello, we're going to work the problem set that I gave you last night. We're just going to work it online and make sure that you can self-check and see where you made any errors. The upcoming quiz will have some of these problems on it, or certainly will have problems like this on it. So let's make sure that you know how to do every single one of them on the problem set. I start off with 2 kind of easier ones and then move into 6 other ones that require the 4-step process that we learned in class and I taught on the prior video. So without further ado, let us move over to the worksheet. Now, feel free on this worksheet, if you know how to do problems, just fast forward. I'm going to work, the first 2, which are a little bit different. They're just kind of straightforward. These first 2 problems. And we're doing the ones from over here, right? These are the 2 problems where we're doing a 4-term polyfactoring, and then we're going to do the 3-term polyfactoring, which is actually harder than the 4-term polyfactoring, and you'll see why, or you know why. Okay, so the first thing we do when we do a 4-term polyfactoring that's set up nicely for us is we just group these and we do a GCF factor on each one. And the GCF factoring on the first one is going to be 3x squared, right? 3x squared will come out of both of these. And then you have left over, you have an x plus 2x. And you can check that back by doing your, by doing your arrows. And you could say, well, that's 3x cubed and that's 6. Well, look, we made a mistake. No, that's not 2x. That indeed is only 2. So 3x squared times 2 is 6x squared. And on the right side here, our GCF is just a simple 2. And we get x plus 2. Now, what's nice about this is because, again, these were set up kind of neatly. We got our x plus 2 term that factors out nicely. And our 3x squared plus 2 term, which is goes like this. And there's our answer. All right, we have the form of a times c plus b times c, where c is x plus 2. It's the same, and a and b are different. So you take your a plus b, you take your c and multiply it by a plus b. That's just distribution, right? Something times one thing times this times a c plus something else times a c is equal to that something plus the other something times c. So there's one. I'm going to go do number 2 kind of a little bit more quickly, just give you the answer on it. So here's how you work it. And here's step 2. We factor out an x squared, and we're left over with, x minus 8. And here we can pull out a 3 and get an x minus 8. And if we pull these down, we get x squared plus 3 and x minus 8. Okay, so those are our 2. These 2 problems. Those are a little bit more straightforward. They're just those are just 2 steps. This other factoring is going to be these 4 steps, and I wrote them down. You have these in the notes from the prior. Okay, from the prior. Let's do it like this. Here we go. Let me just undo it like this. Sorry for all the flashing. We're just going to undo this like this. And remember, these notes down here are going to remind us how we do this factoring. I wrote them out a lot more longhand on the last video, right? So I explained each step in a little bit more detail, and you should have notes that are a little bit more detailed. But this is just a shorthand to remind us the steps that we're going to take on each of these problems. So let's start with the first one, and let's execute each step. Now, at this point, you should have done these 6 problems. And if you're watching this video and you're not in my math class, attempt to do these 6 problems using the method that was on the last posted video, which was AM4 Lesson 4 Advanced Factoring. I want you to try these using that method, and then come back. Then you watch that video, write down the method, then execute these 6 using that method, and then we're going to come back to this video and then watch how I do them. but make sure you've tried them. If you just watch me do them, you're going to think you know how to do it, but when it comes to test time or when it comes to crunch time, you're not going to know how to do it. Okay, so let's execute the steps on this guy. Now that everyone should have an example of your own work. Okay, so we're going to create this big X. And remember, on the big X, we're going to take this first term, or the middle term, just like we did on the factoring with when x squared term was 1, and we're going to put that here. Now, for the bottom term, we're not going to take this term here by itself. What we're going to take is that term multiplied by this, and we're going to put that here. We're going to take these two terms and we're going to multiply them and put them here and say, put the 6 here. Now, we need two numbers that add to -7, but multiply to 6. So that's got to be a positive two negative numbers, because if they add to -7 and multiply to 6, so that's going to be a -6 and a -1. Okay, so that's step 1. I've done my big X factoring. Now let's move on to step 2, where all I'm going to do, this doesn't really require any thinking at all. I'm going to create a 4-term poly using this information. Now, the way that we do it is we take this first term and we copy it down. We take the whole first term and copy it down, and that's 2x squared. And then we take the whole last term and copy that down, which is a positive 3. Now to get the two, we get two middle terms, and to take them, we're going to take these two middle terms and then just stick them down here with an x as the variable for each one. So we take our -6x here, which is from this -6, and we take our negative x right here. And now we've done step 2. Now step 3 says do a GCF factoring. So here I'm going to take 2x and then 2x, and then take an x minus 3. So 2x squared. So if I check it, I get 2x squared minus 6x. Yep, check. And this guy, if I factor it, now look, I have a negative in the front, so I'm going to put a -1 here, because I don't want my first term to be, I don't want that first term to be negative, or the term to be negative. So on my binomial, this is going to need to now be x. And now you got to think about, is this a -3 or a +3? Well, I'm taking out a -1 out of a 3, so it comes out to be a -3. Now, if you want to, now I strongly recommend at this point you check. You check. So let's see. So I get -1 times x. That would be -x, and -1 times -3 is +3. So there's my -x plus 3. So I'm good. I'm correct. I'm correct. If you would have had a +3, you would have, this check step, little check step here would have failed. And the other neat check step is that these things should be the same. These should be the same. And if they're not, you've done something wrong. Okay, so now we just do step 4, which is easy. It's practically just copying, numbers. 2x minus 1 and x minus 3. Now you can check by foiling at this point, and let's do that. Let's do, first 2x squared, outside -6x, inside -x, and then last is plus 3. So I get 2x squared minus 7x plus 3. So that's a little bit longer of an explanation, but these next ones I'm going to go through a little bit more quickly. So we're just going to do them. And we're going to do one step at a time and just go straight down. And notice that while it seems kind of long, each step is really kind of quick. Kind of hard to mess up if you stick straight to the book. Okay, so let's do this one. 3n squared plus 14n minus 5. Let's do our big X. I'll put our plus 14 here. Our 3 times our negative 5 is negative 15 here. So now what multiplies to negative 15 but adds to 14? Well, that's going to be a big positive number and a little negative number. So let's see, what do we got? A little negative and a big positive, 15 and negative 1. Let's try that. Oh, that works. We just started right off the bat, a little negative, negative 1 and positive 15. So that was step 1. Step number 2 says copy our outsides down, our 3n squared and our negative 5. We just copied these guys down. And our middle one is this. Effectively what we're doing is we're splitting the middle term, this 14n, into a negative n and a positive 15n. Right? Negative n plus 15n, that equals 14n. And this big X is helping us split it in a way that will always do this magic factoring. So now we're going to factor the first term and factor the second term. Go back to the red we're using. And we get n times 3n minus 1 and plus 5 times 3n minus 1. And we can check that. It's 3n squared, n times negative 1, negative n, 15n, negative 5. Awesome. And that was 3. And then step 4 is n plus 5 times 3n minus 1. Done. Okay, see how easy this is? This is like this is the hard part. This is really the hard part. I mean, if that's hard at all. We're getting pretty good at this big X stuff and finding two numbers that add to a certain number and multiply to a certain number. And then everything else is just you just write it down pretty much. All right. Okay, let's just do. Okay, now we're on number let's see, 3t squared. Another thing might just be remembering what the variable is that we're dealing with, plus 4. So now we're going to do a big X. We put our positive 8 here and our positive 12 here. 6 and 2, does 6 and 2 work? 6 and 2, plus 6 plus 2. That's step 1. Step 2 says copy down, and we get 3t squared and a plus 4 plus 6t plus 2t. Step 3 says factor 3t times t plus 2 plus 2 times t plus 2. And we get 3t plus 2 times t plus 2. Box. Good. Okay. So now number 6. We'll do number 6. Let's just do that one in. Let's do that one in blue. So 4s squared minus 9s plus 5. Okay. Here we go. We got negative 9 and a positive 20. So I need two negative numbers, negative 4 and negative 5 work. So that's step 1. Step 2 says 4s squared plus 5. Put that over here. And then we're going to say negative 4 and then go negative 5s. And then we say 4s times s minus 1. And we don't like this. We got to pull a negative out because we want it to be the first term to be positive, so negative 5 times s minus 1. And notice, remember, we're going to check this. Negative 5s, good. Negative 5 times negative 1 is 5, awesome. And so we get 4s, that was 3, and then step 4 is 4s minus 5, and then s minus 1. Cool. All right, we got 2 more to go. You're responsible for self-checking this. This is your study for the upcoming quiz, or if you're just watching this video online, I don't know why you're watching a video, unless you're trying to learn something, and the best way you learn it is do it yourself. So let's do the last two. 2h squared plus 13h minus 7. So we're going to go big X plus 13 minus 14. So I need a negative and a positive because they multiply to a negative number, but add to 13. So let's see, positive 14 and negative 1 will work. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2 is 2h squared plus 14h minus 1h minus 7. 2h times h plus 7 minus h plus 7. If this is hard for you, this double negative turning into 2 positive, just make sure that you multiply back, and you're going to get negative h minus 7. A lot of mistakes are made right here. And then 4 says, well, 2h minus 1, because this is really a minus 1, times h plus 7. Good. And then the final one is number 8, is 6x squared. Oh, this is a weird one. Minus s, just minus 5. So let's do our big X. We have to add to negative 1, but multiply to negative 30. So I need a positive and a negative that are 1 apart. So let's see. So that would be a negative 6. Let's just show you. So I could do a negative 6 and a positive 5, but I could also, I'm going to show you how we get the same answer, even if we do it the other way. This is kind of cool. So I'm going to solve it both ways. Because you can put the 5 here and the negative 6 here, or the negative 6 here and the 5 here, and it's going to work. And it'll work out differently in the middle, but at the end it will be the same. So watch this. 6s squared minus 6s plus 5s minus 5. So we get 6s times s minus 1 plus 5 times s minus 1. So we get, that's 3. Step 4 says 6s plus 5 times s minus 1. Okay, so this is way number 1. But if we do it the other way, we're going to still get the same answer. And watch this. I'll just do this one in green. So we get 6s squared and minus 5. Same thing on the outside, but on the inside we're going to go plus 5s minus 6s. So watch this. So I'm going to go s times 6s plus 5 minus 6s plus 5. All right, minus 6s minus 5. Okay, so that's step 3. And now my final one set, and this is, remember, this is kind of like a 1 in here. So I get s minus 1 times 6s plus 5. And notice, we get the same answer. And that, even though we haven't done that, deserves a happy cat. So we're going to put a happy cat, and we're going to put a spinning happy cat, because he knows that whenever we do math right, even if we do it kind of one way or the other way, we're going to ultimately get to the same answer, because math is perfect and it's circular and it always fits. So you have seen how to do all the problems. I am excited to have shown these to you. Hopefully it makes sense. You had lots of examples. If it doesn't make sense, the process, I go through the process much more slowly in the other video and explain each step. Let me know if you need any help. Send me email, dlipscomb@stsimon.org, dlipscomb@stsimon.org. Otherwise, I will see you in class.